Okay, my beautiful angelic baby kitten, my month with a billionaire. So, Mr. Harley has just told us that he had a very inappropriate relationship with his nanny, who was 26 when he was 14, who basically showed him the ropes of this diabolical lifestyle. And this poor boy was groomed. And as somebody that had the same experience, I felt very, very sad for him. And I understand what it's like. So, I definitely was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense, Harley. And I am here to listen to you and tell me what happened. So he starts telling me that this beautiful girl named Paulina had stepped in to be his nanny at his house, and his mom was getting sick, and he was feeling very sad about his brother still, Leland, who had passed years earlier, and his dad was just in the rages of business and coming home and being very stressed and drinking and being mean to him. And then his sister, who was older, she was getting into boys and drinking and doing her own thing. So he felt very isolated because he wanted his mom's attention, but he also was just trying to keep his head above water as a preteen and everything. And in comes beautiful Paulina. Paulina came in and was his personal nanny, escorting him around to school. He had a chauffeur, but she would be in the car with him, taking him to school, making sure that he did his homework every night, and was just like his personal nanny. The way that Harley said it was that his mother just didn't want to deal with him sometimes because she was sometimes sick or was crying over Leland and just didn't want to see Harley. And Harley said that he remembers the very first moment that something had switched in his relationship with Paulina. And he said that it was one day that he was walking past her room. He was like, I was just walking by. The door was just kind of a little bit cracked open. I was just walking by carrying a book, and I was looking down at my book, and I look over and I just see her changing, and I see her taking her bra off. And I had never seen a girl's boobs before in real life. And I was just standing there, and she looked over at me, and I knew I was caught, and I just stood there, and she didn't look away, and she took her bra off, and she just kept looking at me. And then she took her underwear off, and I got freaked out, and I ran away, and I went to my room. So then after that, it was a thing where we were always kind of having like little moments together, and I was obsessed with her. He's like, I would just always want to be around her, and I felt very protective of her, and she was literally like my right hand, always with me. And so no one thought about it or anything. And then one day they were in the back of his dad's Rolls Royce with the driver. She was talking to him about something, or he was telling her about school, and she kind of like hit him like in the arm, and he was like, I don't know why, but her touch, like I just immediately got, and it was very obvious because I was in my little tennis shorts, and so you could see everything. And so the sails were up, and she saw, and I got really embarrassed, and I was like, please don't look. And she just kind of like laughed. And then that night he was going to bed, and she walked in to make sure that he was like all comfortable and everything. And she walked in and just sat at the edge of the bed and was just like, hey, you know, what happened to you earlier is really natural, right? And he was like, I'm sorry that happened. Please don't tell my mom. And she was like, no, but you know, like what relieves that? And he was like, yes. And she was like, oh, but there's like other things that you can do. And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, yeah. And so then after that, things like that would happen. And then one day I saw her getting dropped off at home by a guy in a Jeep. And I was like, who is that, Paulina? And she said that it was her boyfriend. And I was so mad because I didn't realize she had a boyfriend. He's like, that I went upstairs, I slammed my door. He's like, I wrecked my room. I just started punching the walls and stuff. And I was just so angry. And she came in and she was like comforting me, and I was crying, and she was like, it doesn't mean that you're not special to me, but you know, you and I can't do anything anymore because I have a boyfriend now. And he was like, and I was heartbroken. You know, I was so in love with her, and I just felt like I wanted to die. And so then I just started acting up even more in school and starting fights and stuff. And then one day he's at home, he's sleeping, and he wakes up because he wants to go downstairs to get some water. And he's like, I was walking by Paulina's room and I heard noises, and it was late at night, and I stuck my ear up to the door and I could hear her. I barged into the room, and she was there with her boyfriend, her man, in the compromising position. He's like, and I was just so mad, and I was just looking at her, and she just said, Harley, close the door. So I closed the door, and I thought it was because she didn't want to get caught because she had stuck her boyfriend in. And she just told me to sit down in the chair next to the wardrobe and to watch. And so I did. I couldn't stop watching, and I was fascinated. And from then on, I realized that I really liked it. And I was like, and that's when you started to make the connection that you could be involved without being vulnerable and without getting hurt. So your mind started connecting that feeling to safety. And he was like, yes. He was like, look, I've done a lot of therapy and I know exactly why. And I was like, I understand, Harley. And he was like, yeah. And then her and her boyfriend, they got engaged and they got married and she moved out of the house. And then I just started trying to have relationships with women, normal relationships. But for some reason, I just could always not keep at attention if it was just me and one girl. So then I started experimenting, trying to think about like, how can I get that feeling again? And I was able to, if there were multiple girls, because with multiple people, and I was like, with multiple people, because multiple people means that you're again less vulnerable because it's not just you and one other person. And so it's not just on you to perform everything. And he was like, exactly. And I was like, okay, Harley, I understand. And I was like, well, I really appreciate you sharing this with me. I know that it's really hard. And he was like, look, I told you that I feel really comfortable with you. And I know we haven't known each other very long, but I'm an open book. I don't care who knows about things. Like if people ask me, I'll tell them, obviously, but you're someone that I want you to know these things about me because I want you to understand me. And I was like, I get it. And I want you to feel understood and seen. And that is incredibly important. But I need you to see me and understand me if we're going to continue in this way. And he was like, absolutely. And I was like, I am not comfortable with the relationship that you have with Dana when it comes to her massaging you and touching you and stuff like that. I understand that you and I haven't even been intimate yet, but this is just something that doesn't make me feel good from someone that is trying to court me and be my partner. For me, it's inappropriate. And he was like, okay, so how would you like me to handle it? And I was like, I think that obviously the comings and goings of the things that she does in your life is it. And although I do think that she does need to have less claws in everything that you do so that you can start to become more independent. And he was like, I do want that. He was like, it is annoying having her around all the time. I was like, but that starts with setting boundaries. So like her massaging you in her robe while you're shirtless, that needs to be a boundary. Her having a say in your business stuff, that should be a boundary because you have business people for that. Her only job is to make sure that you don't fall off the wagon, get into the snow train, and fall into your addiction again. Jack is your assistant. Let him assist you and do stuff. You should get someone that's going to run your household that isn't Dana. She is not your house manager. She's not your estate manager. And so if you want her to have that position, sure, great. Like, honestly, it's your life and she's kind of taken that position. But at the end of the day, it does feel for you to gain autonomy the way that you want to, for you to grow out of this, there does need to be boundaries. He was like, okay, and then there's something else I need to tell you then. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, it didn't just happen once. I'm like, with Dana. And he was like, yeah. Me and my ex broke up many, many times in between them because we were fighting all the time. And every single time, like, I always had Dana. While we were together, I did try to put some boundaries with Dana. And I was like, okay, so she is an emotional comfort for you. Like, at this point, if you were with somebody seriously, you would be emotionally cheating on them with Dana. And he was like, is that what you think? I was like, yeah. I was like, honestly, that's probably how your ex felt. And he was like, yeah, she talked about that all the time, that she felt like Dana was like my wife and she was just my girlfriend. I'm like, I mean, it makes sense, Harley. And the thing is, if you ever want to have a serious relationship and a serious future with somebody, you are going to have to set boundaries with Dana. Because there is not a woman on this planet that would walk into seeing your sober living coach or another woman like putting their hands on you like that and be like, hey, that's cool and okay. I've been here a week. And I was like, I'm not cool with that. He was like, I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, you know, it is important for me to feel safe. I have never felt safe in the way that I grew up with my dad, with my previous relationships, my previous marriage, and my long-term relationships. Being safe is the most important thing for me and most women and people in general. I don't feel safe in this situation right now. So it probably is best if I go stay with one of my friends. And he was like, how can we make you feel safe? I was like, I don't know, Harley. I think that right now I just need to go to sleep because I'm really freaking tired because we've been talking all night. I'm going to go back to the hotel tomorrow because all my stuff is there. I'm going to go look at a couple other apartments and then I'm just going to kind of see what I want to do. I have a couple castings I need to go to, so I'm just going to see what I want to do. And he was like, okay, well, can you stay in here tonight? And I was just looking at him, y'all, and he had been so vulnerable with me and I just felt sad for him that I was just like, okay, Harley, I'll stay in here tonight. And he was like, oh, that makes me so happy. I'm like, yeah, I know. I was so tired, y'all. I just crawled into the bed. He put on his eye patch and his earbuds and his whole ass sleepy time regimen. And he actually turned over and big spooned me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is new. And he just like held me. I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens next, y'all. The next morning comes, I wake up in the Mansion of Madness and in Harley's vault. And I actually had slept really well because also, you know, when you're drinking, like, you feel good. I kind of open my eyes and I see that all the windows and blinds are open, and I had slept in my contacts, so my eyes felt like they were suctioning to my face. I hate when I do that, but I was like, is it a miracle and can I see, or did I stupidly sleep in my contacts tonight? Ah, yes, not a miracle that I can see. I just stupidly slept in my contacts. I kind of open my eyes, I'm like, "Rrr." And I look around and Harley's side of the bed is made again because Maria is a ninja, apparently. I walk downstairs, y'all. And as soon as I'm approaching the kitchen, I hear Chef Drew in there cooking up a storm. I'm like, let's see what this motherfucker's about too. Maria is in the living room fluffing some stuff and everything. And I don't see Harley or Dana in there. And I'm assuming that Kristen and Jace are still asleep, as well as Gabby. I'm like, good morning. And sweet little baby Drew is like, good morning, sweetie. I'm like, Chef Drew. And he was like, yes. I'm like, a word. And he's like, uh-oh, am I in trouble? I walk over to him and I just get really close to him and I look at him and I said, Chef Drew, I want you to be the best fiance to your girl. And he goes, I am a good fiance. I said, I know, but that includes not flirting or having strange girls sit on your lap or shotgunning with them, all of the above and anything more. And I know that I instigated, and I apologize for my part in that. I did not know that you were spoken for, but your girl deserves more, and I want you to be good to her. And he was like, yes, ma'am. I was like, good lad. He's like, what'll it be? What do you be eating? And I was like, I want some damn pancakes. And he was like, pancakes, eh? I was like, give me some chocolate chip pancakes. Like, mama's hungry. And he was like, you got it. I go grab a cold brew from the fridge and I go over. I'm like, good morning, Maria. And she's like, good morning. And I just sit at the little medium and I am just kind of looking on my phone. And then I hear, there she is. And I look over and good old Harley is coming down the stairs. He had just worked out with his trainer and he's walking down there with his trainer and Dana is walking behind him. He says goodbye to his trainer. He walks out and then Harley walks in and he gives me a kiss on the head. Dana is just on her phone walking behind him and he sits next to me and he was like, what's good, Chef? We're all kind of chatting and I'm like, good morning, Dana. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, Kat, you're here. I'm like, bitch, I've been sitting here for like the past 7 minutes, but yes. And she's like, I'm glad you're here. And she's like, Harley, I wanted to talk to the two of you. And we're like, okay. And she's like, Harley, I think it's probably time that we send Miss Kat away. What? So yes, y'all. Next episode, Dana's trying to send me away now. What did she hear? What does she know? And so much more. Love you and I see you. Big hug, big kiss.